Hello there, and welcome to Sweet Child of Time. I'm your host, Steve Barnes. Today we're discussing Goldeneyes, Season 3, Episode 7. I'm here with your marshland monster. He is your James McCullum. Ahoy there, James.
Ahoy there. I have found water and shade, and I hope our kind, gentle giant Loyal does as well. Man, that sucked.
Okay, yeah, I want to really go into that straight up. That was like my least favorite thing about this episode was the demise of Loyal.
Yeah, 2 thumbs down.
Did you see it as kind of like a you shall not pass Lord of the Rings, like lesser than moment?
Oh, I saw it as like a greater than because I know he's not coming back from this. Like he knows he is gone. And I will say for an episode that is just one long pretty much battle scene, they know how to up the emotional stakes to just be like, all right, these people are going to die. These people are going to die. Will it hold? What is happening? They was just constantly trying to fight back tears throughout this entire show.
Yeah, that's right. I've watched this episode 3 times now because the first time I watched it, just when it aired, of course. Yes, James?
Oh, no, I'm saying this is the first time I'm holding up one finger. I'm not saying, please, sir.
Me and Heather didn't love this episode on first watch. We were kind of like, arms crossed, like laughing aloud, not loving this episode. I walked away not liking this episode.
Wow.
When I first watched it.
I was crying not from laughter, but from emotional stakes.
Sure, I can see that. The second time I watched this was when I watched this with my podcast eyes and I had like pen and paper in hand to take notes. And so I appreciated it a little bit more, but even so, it lost me in the third act yet again. Did not like it upon the second watch. And then, of course, we always like to watch it again before we record the podcast. So I watched it just now. And I liked it a lot better the third watch. It's usually what happens is because I'm starting to notice more detail, stories coming together. I'm starting to appreciate the acting more, and I'm starting to appreciate the choreography. And then it lost me in the third act yet again. It falls apart in the third act. It really does.
Oh, I think it's solid throughout, but we will eventually talk about it next episode. But I do want to say this, Steve. These goddamn producers are going to have to make me read these stupid books.
I mean, the book cloaks win yet again. They get their show canceled and they get more readers. So it's a win-win for them.
And 20 years are going to make an even more woke one because, oh my God, the wokeness, it's going out of control with Josh Peck. There's a movie called The Wokeness with that Josh Peck is a star of. Actually, for everyone listening, I know for a fact no one else has watched that.
Yeah, I didn't even know it existed, and I'm a Josh Peck fan myself, having a son that's 29 years old. So, of course, he was a Drake and Josh guy. I wanted to lead because, of course, today's June 3rd. Our listeners aren't hearing this until June 10th or after. But, we know the Wheel of Time has been canceled at this point. So I want to direct anybody who is interested in just having your voice heard to go to the Save WOT website, which is simply that, Save WOT. And you can either do the .com or you can hashtag it or just Google it. It's 100,000 signatures strong, including my own.
Whoa.
James, have you signed the what do you call it? What do you call these things when they do them?
Petition.
Have you signed the petition, James?
No, I signed a Save TZST, Save Timothy Zahn Star Wars. I said Z, but I meant a W, guys. Because actually, I did say I'm going to read or listen to audiobooks of Wheel of Time. I got to listen to the Timothy Zahn stuff before I even touch Wheel of Time.
We do want to hear some Thrawn. He was a great villain in the Star Wars universe. That's true. But no, Save Wheel of Time is where I encourage you and anybody else who hasn't already to go to this website. Simply put your name up there among the other 100,000 of us. I think they ask you a couple of just really basic questions like, why do you want to save Wheel of Time? What could you change? My hot take, we'll get into that next time, our next record. We're going to talk all about it the next record because as of right now, the show is still going on in me and James's world. We're going to talk about it as if the show hasn't been canceled, hopefully.
This is how they do it, guys. Non-union. I'm kidding.
We're going to get into this episode now. They showed us a previously on, and they showed us a wide variety of Perrin hairstyles. Like, I didn't realize how much his hair changed, like, throughout this series.
I thought you were going to say just a wide variety of episodes throughout the series because they were going back to, like, season 1 stuff.
Well, yeah, they have to, because we're bringing the Tuathan back. And like, that's, that definitely ties into this storyline and ties into the main story at large as well, because, this story is just beginning in the world of Perrin here. But yeah, we get a strong intro to this episode, strong music. We got Perrin at the forge being the blacksmith, and the whole town is like working on weapons and like hoisting things back and forth. Hiya. Loyal has this big ass large sword, like big Trolloc sized sword he's heaving, even though he has the hammer later on for his own demise. But he's got a big old sword in this opening scene. Alanna teaching the young ladies to prepare for battle. I think a wise thing would be to teach them some healing method, because we're going to need some healing.
Yeah, I thought when she said, hey, you guys aren't going to be able to learn battle weaves. I need you to heal because, a lot of people are going to be dying. And if I die, 1, you might need to try and heal me. And if you can't, 2, heal your neighbor.
That's right. Or like add your strength to Alanna's. That's the main thing she's trying to do, is just strengthen herself by using their power and linking it with her so she can be supersize Alanna, which we see. How are you feeling about Alanna possibly being a dark friend at this point, James? Do you think Alanna's a secret dark friend now?
I've never thought that.
I know. I was kind of leading you to kind of think that, especially the last episode when we were talking. I listened back to it and I was like, yeah, I was kind of leaning it on pretty hard, like trying to foreshadow she might be a dark friend. In this episode, she proves otherwise strong.
Yeah. Unless she's got some splaining to do to Mr. Dark Guy, because she's killing a lot of his men for, I guess, to stay undercover, to hang out with Perrin some more.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a strange motive. But yeah, she's definitely a good guy. We can strongly stamp the good guy stamp on Alanna at this point.
But she's a little naughty, too.
I mean, oh God, yeah. We'll get to her scene in a bit here before the big fight. There's always big loving before the big fight. Speaking of loving, Perrin is loving his new apprentices. He's got Will and Ban Alcine. He's got a couple more blacksmiths in the field now, so they can triple up their production of knives and swords and mending pots and pans, as the Tuathan say. Speaking of the Tuathan, they ring the bell at this point. They think the Trollocs are coming, but nah, it's the Tuathan. They showed up because they want some shelter, because the Trollocs are running about in the hills of the two rivers. Everybody within a 5 to 10 mile radius is coming for shelter. So they're either going to like hang out with the White Cloaks if they're on that side of the two rivers, or they're coming here inside the gates.
Whether they're near the first river or the second river, that's where they. But what if they're right smack dab in the middle?
Yeah, that'd be a great place. Like you've heard of the story about how Jack White got married at the place where like these 3 rivers met, because he's all into the number 3 and stuff. So no. I can imagine like somebody doing the same thing, the 2 rivers. They want to get married right at the point where the 2 rivers cross, right there at the Wine Spring Inn. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. But where are they going if they're right in the middle? I guess either you flip a coin or you say, I guess I really like these religious zealots who just full of hypocrisy, and I don't care about these hillbilly folk.
Yeah, I'd go with the hillbillies for sure. Aram and Ida, they pick the hillbillies. They head over to the 2 rivers. We see them there, and they're sad because Granddad died last night in a fight with the Trollocs. And, Isla's here reminding us of the Tuathan, I guess their motto, we bury our dead and we go on. What else is there? And, you kind of get some foreshadowing that Aram is not feeling the Tuathan way.
Yeah.
Even this early on.
He's like, I want to be one of them Aiels.
Yeah. He's seeing like some tough guys now. He's like, I kind of like their shtick. I want to go with this.
Even though what the Tuathan are doing were the original Aiel.
Yeah, that's some funny stuff. We get into that in just a second here, because we're talking to the Tuathan. They're in there now. and Egwene's mom is trying to be really nice, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I heard y'all were vegetarians, so I picked the meat out of the stew." And you've been vegetarian. I don't know if you're vegetarian currently, but you've been vegetarian before.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that before, where somebody tries to like be nice, but they are really not helping too much?
No, but Nicole has, I think, told this story on a podcast before, or just to me. But her aunt, she would always hang out with her cousins, and then her aunt was like, "Oh yeah, and Nicole, I know you're vegetarian." This is when Nicole was a teenager, because she was a vegetarian from I think 12 to 28, something like that.
Okay.
So says, "Hey, don't worry, I bought you some SpaghettiOs that don't have the meatballs in it." And she's like, "Oh, okay." Then goes and it says SpaghettiOs with meat sauce. And she's like, "This has meat in it." And she's like, "No, it doesn't have any of the meatballs." And she's like, "But it says with meat sauce. Where do you think they get the sauce to be meat from meat?"
I have a similar story where for years somebody would bring us like a quote unquote vegetarian stuffing for Thanksgiving. And it wasn't until years later that we found out that they were making with chicken broth. And they just assumed that was okay because it's not a big chunk of meat.
Yeah.
So that's a common thing that people will do. If it doesn't have a visible chunk of meat in it, then it must be fine for vegetarians. But Isla's like, that's not the way of the leaf here, buddy.
Yeah.
And yeah, she shames Aram. Aram wants to dig in. He's like, can I go ahead? It's okay, Grandma? She's like, gives him a look like, hell no, don't you dare.
The grandfather's name is Ran, but we also have Rand, and then we're going to get Randium. What's next, guys? These goddamn fantasy writers need to be stopped. It's fine naming people that, but don't have 5 people all with just like, hey, we're going to change one letter. That's being uninspired, okay?
I can't argue with you here. Perrin shows his diplomatic ways in this episode a lot. He talks to the Tuathan in their language. He talks in a way that they understand. He talks to the White Cloaks in a way that they understand. And you see him talking to, there's someone else that he talks to that's like, help me out here. We'll get to him eventually. But Perrin always seems to know the right tone and the way to talk to people. And it's very different in the way he addresses these folk.
Sounds like the Aes Sedai should be hiring him to be a diplomat. Maybe people would stop being like, yeah, they're witches we need to burn, or, be very, very, very afraid of. Or, hey, they're the bad people, They could use him to, kind of sweeten the pot a little before they come around.
Speaking of sweetening the pot, we got Bane and Chiad sitting over there in the corner checking out Aram because, Aram's a good-looking man. And they're talking about whether or not they would do them. They're like, I wouldn't sully myself with no dirty wetlander. And they're spitting at the thought of it. They're like so like anti-Tuathan. It's pretty awesome knowing what we know now and seeing the way that they're reacting.
Yeah. They need to go through the ways. No, not ways. Whatever the big triangle or the forest is.
Yeah, Ruidian. I want to see them do this because they never will, because they'll never be wise ones. They're hardened warriors. After this episode, there's no denying like how strong and how tough they are.
It's crazy how people in our real world would go through that, see like all the pain and anguish that has happened in our past, and they'd be like, nah, that's fake news. I'm not believing any of it. And it's like, but it's like you should know, like that's true. And they're like, nah, man, I don't believe in magic. But I got to go to bed. It's Saturday. I got church in the morning. And it's like, that's magic too.
It's all AI. What if they find out that like Jesus has been AI this whole time?
Did you hear that story about there's an AI company that had to file for bankruptcy once it was found out that it was just 800 software engineers trying to be AI?
Oh,
so it was just it was just that's all it was.
That's really fun, actually. I wouldn't mind working for that, trying to pretend like I'm an AI robot. I don't know. That sounds like almost like wholesome grifting in a way.
Yeah. Because, technically it is, because you are paying actual people to do all this work.
I don't know. I'm sorry they went bankrupt. I'm sorry they got caught too. Do you remember the name of this or anything I can look up to Google later?
Just search AI company 800 people. That will for sure bring it up.
Okay, I'm going to take your word on it. Let's see. Yeah, the twins. Alana's trying to teach the twins here, Matt's sister, Bode and Eldrin. she's trying to teach them, like, picture the rose. And they're like, when are we going to throw these fireballs? The last time we saw an Aes Sedai here, she shot everybody with lightning and it was awesome. Why is this so lame? And so Alana's trying to like teach them the ways. And I get a real sense here. This is where I started being bummed out that the show was canceled and started thinking about it, because they're really setting up Matt's sisters here to be some comic relief in some later episodes, because they do, they will come into play, or should come into play later in our story. And it seems like every time we cut to them, they have a witty comment to make, and I like them.
Or by the time of the final battle, they'll be ready, they'll be trained, and then it's the hornblower and his two sisters just going into battle together. That'd be rad as hell.
The hornblower and the two horn tutors right behind them. Oh, yeah, the wisdom of the town. Her name is Days Conger, and she gets a shout out in this episode. Alana can tell that she's a channeler as well. And she's like, I don't want to get into that stuff because I'd have to give up drinking. And that statement kind of reminded me of people who maybe don't get their CDL license because it requires, regular drug testing for that kind of job. Or maybe people don't seek certain employment because you have to like give up one of your vices that you enjoy. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting aspect. I didn't really pick up the first watch. It wasn't until the second watch that I took note of that. Is there anything that you've had to sacrifice in order to get what you want? Like, this Days has something in front of her she can use, but she's like, nah, I like my drinking ways instead.
No, not really.
As a parent, of course, you have to give up a lot in order to be a parent.
Like freaking happiness, am I right, guys?
But yeah, something for the listener to query in their mind while we continue talking about the Wheel of Time.
There have been times when it's just Nicole and I go, like, thinking about Henry, who was like a just terrible cat when we first got him, but now I just love him so much. I'm like, it does suck that if I had a kid, I would have been a good parent, because it's like I would have loved the shit out of whatever Nicole and I had. So it's kind of depriving one child of like a good life. But you want to know what? It could also be, knowing Nicole and I's genetics, they could have had a really fucking painful life of just like, I got chronic pain everywhere.
Yep. Well, for me, that old CDL example I just gave you, maybe that holds true for Steve Barnes. Maybe that's a little thing that holds me back from wanting to pursue my CDL license, which I could easily get. But like I said, it requires regular drug testing. And, I love my Advil. I love my Tylenol. I don't want to give that up, just like Days Conger.
You're like, dang, I listened to too much Cottonmouth Kings back in the day and took their gospel or I took their words as gospel that I'm going to smoke weed for the rest of my life.
Smoke weed every day.
Well, that's not Cottonmouth Kings. That's Dr. Dre and Nate Dogg specifically.
Oh, Nate Dogg. That's right. I get my dogs mixed up all the time. Maxim's our dog here. He's teaching the gang some spear techniques. Oh, wait.
Real quick, at barbecues, like, Hopper does need to leave frequently because you will confuse your dogs. You're like, I'm going to eat this hot dog. And then Hopper's like, yow.
It's a vegetarian hot dog. Don't forget. I'm still holding true to that vegetarian values.
But still, you sometimes accidentally bite your dog's tail thinking it's a hot dog.
It's only happened twice. Come on. All right. Maxim's teaching these guys some spear techniques. They got poison spears. I love that. We don't really see that come into play later. And a poison spear is kind of like something that it's not like an immediate battle technique where you're trying to kill a Trolloc. It's more like a long-term thing, but still cool they had that. I love poison.
Unless it's a real active poison.
Which means?
It teases up your hair and you start doing, hair metal shit.
Oh, the Trollocs are like halfway there. They're like big dudes with long hair. They just got to get that guitar in their hands. But before they can do that, though, the wolf flag goes up. We see this wolf flag go up. It's replacing the flag of Manetheren, which is a red eagle, with the wolf. And this is all Fail. She is the one that is kind of masterminding this, like, let's elevate Perrin. Let's raise a wolf. Because she went around and told people, like, hey, the wolves protect the town. Kind of like in this little sly dog way of like, hey, and who's the big wolf over there I'm in love with? Maybe you should like listen to him too. So she's kind of behind there, kind of like helping Lord Perrin up a little bit, which he says, don't call me that, of course. That's like his catchphrase. Don't call me that. So we're not allowed to call him Lord Perrin, apparently. Apparently. So they do a little meetup. This is something else Fail does. She sets a little meetup here with the White Cloaks, and she includes Perrin in that, which she didn't have to do. That's another way she kind of slyly made Perrin a leader. And they're meeting up, and Lord Luke is the guy that's back there with Dane Bornhald. So we see a White Cloak, and we see another guy back there. And that's Lord Luke, and he's kind of like our liaison. He came into town with Fail. They were buddies when they came into town together. Now Fail's hanging out with Perrin a lot. They're a couple. And this Lord Luke guy, we haven't seen him a whole lot, but he's acting as a liaison. Okay. So let's raise an eyebrow about that guy a little bit. So he's over there with Dane. Perrin is like, hey, come join the fight. We could use some White Cloak fighting because we need some help. Let's unite and conquer. Dane doesn't really agree to that. What happens at this point? Perrin tries to appeal to Dane's righteousness. That's the other person that I was trying to think of earlier that Perrin was really good at talking to and talking in the right language, was with these White Cloak fellows. He agrees. He says, if y'all come and help us, I will be your prisoner and I will go with you. How about that, Dane? And Dane's still like, no. And so as far as we know at this point, the White Cloaks are not going to help us.
Yeah. I wrote down, trying to reason with religious zealots is always a lost cause to their hypocrisy, because it's like, no, you are trying to kill Trollocs. You are trying to stay away from the Dark Friends. Little do they know, they brought the Dark Friends into the Two Rivers. So it just really, it's kind of like with the Hornblowers, or not the Hornblowers, the Seekers of the Horn Seekers.
The Hunters of the Horn, yes.
Hunters of the Horns know just as much about the Horn of Valir as the White Cloaks know about Dark Friends, comparatively to the Two Rivers Five. They are completely let in on everything going on. They understand their worldview is extremely wide comparatively, so it just kind of sucks that no one is listening to them. Well, they're like, no, we know what's going on. We know the Dark Friends. We know how to spot Dark Friends. And then they just completely allow these dicklings to come in. And man, when they're like, there weren't any Trollocs. What are you talking about? We walked right in. And they're like, huh? Oh, well, yeah. There's a bunch of Dark Friends right behind you, you idiots.
Yeah, it's because of their self-imposed blind spot that they put on themselves. And they see anybody in a white cloak must be a good guy. So let's let them join us. That's right.
I would have just started wearing white cloaks.
I think I would maybe counter against that. I think that's not a great idea.
Well, if a bunch of white cloaks were coming towards me, would you rather not be in a white cloak or be in a white cloak?
Okay, for this example, I guess throwing a white cloak on and fooling them would be a good thing to do. I don't know.
We're talking cloaks. We're not talking white sheets. There's a difference there.
Even so, when you said that, the first thing that came to my head was myself in a white cloak walking around downtown. I was like, that's not a good look.
I'm saying it within this. I wonder was Robert Jordan I guess like the priests and whatnot, higher ups do wear white cloaks, but I wonder if this goddamn Robert Jordan was woke back in the 90s trying to comment on the Klan.
I might counter your correct, James. I think that's a very astute correction there.
When did this get woke? Oh my God.
Let's get out of this wokeness. Loyal's not woke, is he? No, he's strong and loyal. He's not woke. He's writing here in his little book about the last king of Manetheren, whose name was Althorin. And so like that catches Bane and Chiad's ears. Like, oh, is he related to Rand? He's like, I don't know. But how about we play a game of Maiden's Kiss? And he gets right all into that. I think this scene comes and goes in the next couple of scenes here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with our scene with Loyal, if that's okay.
Yeah.
He's trying to fool them. He's trying to fool Chiad into playing this game of Maiden's Kiss so that he will be a crappy kisser and they will be forced to either kill him or stop the game. And he kind of wagers his life on this. And of course they stop the game. And then of course Loyal's like, aha, I tricked you. Now you don't owe me toe anymore. And then she's like, well, no, actually, now you owe her toe because of some weird backhanded reason. I don't know, James. They double crossed each other and now they're still stuck with Loyal. they love being stuck with Loyal. Loyal is like, okay, I guess if you're with me, you got to come help me with this goddamn gate thing. So yeah, a little game of semantics that they played there.
And a little game of Maiden's Kiss.
Yeah, and he didn't get to if it was me, I would have started out strong, okay? I absolutely would have started out strong, and then I would have started maybe being like, I don't kiss us, and lost that way. And you know what I'm saying?
But he's a man of honor. He doesn't want kisses. If he gets them, okay, but he's a studious scholar here to but actually experiencing Maiden's Kiss would probably make him a better writer when it comes to chronicling the Aiel ways, which is Maiden's Kiss.
So far, he only knows about kissing other Ogier, but he can learn about kissing Aiel women and learn about kissing human women. And I guess Aiels are human, right? Do we fall in the same species as Aiel? Okay, yeah, just making sure. I kind of forgot there.
Nicole plays Maiden's belt with me.
Oh, how do you play this game?
As we're kissing more, she tightens a belt around my neck more.
And the better you kiss, the more she tightens it?
Yeah, I guess.
I forbid this game going forward.
You play Maiden's Iron. I don't know any Iron Maiden songs, guys.
We did a whole Iron Maiden podcast and you don't know any Iron Maiden songs. That's interesting. You just like the Iron Maiden artwork.
They didn't stick in my head as much as Judas Priest, way better than Iron Maiden. We've had this conversation.
Judas Priest does write a simpler line that stays in your head better. Iron Maiden is more esoteric and melodic. So I can see what you're saying. Sweet Shot of Time is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the way we record Sweet Shot of Time. We hook up with our guests via video and we record it on audio. Recently, we've been doing video podcasts with the cast of Time Bandits. It's easy using Zencastr. You can record video or audio. You can also edit your podcast or your video via Zencastr. Join Zencastr using my promo code Sweet Child of Time and you can get 30% off Zencastr. If you're ready to start your podcast, it's time to share your story. Share it with Zencastr. That promo code once again, Sweet Child of Time at Zencastr.com. Maxim. We're going to talk about Maxim now. He comes in the room. He's bitching about turnips. He plays a little fast one on Alana here. He fools the fact that he has some figs with him, something sweet. And they have a little food sex situation here. And yeah, this is when she calls him a little bitch. I was I love that line. That's that was my favorite Alana line of this episode, even though she had some better ones, but it's a surprise.
My favorite from her was, I'm freaking dying here, girls, help me.
Picture the bud.
Just please picture any freaking flower in any stage. Just help me, man.
Oh, Maxim and Alana are doing good now. They were doing bad last time we saw them. Now they're doing good, eating figs, having sex, making something new together, hanging in the two rivers. They got a purpose now. So we're going to leave them be. We're heading back over to Perrin and Fael. Now their little intimate moment. She tries to sneak up on him. She can't because Perrin has super hearing.
And super smell. He's like,
oh, yeah. You probably smelt that coming up. And she likes lost causes. That's what she admits here. The reason she is sticking around is she likes a lost cause. She wants to fight for Perrin. And at this point, they're talking talk about his ex-wife and how he killed her in battle. And he's trying to chase her away and he stands up and yells at her and she's not going anywhere. So she's kind of been a hero of mine in the book and she's definitely a hero of mine in the show. Strong episode for Fael. She sticks with Perrin. Yeah.
And she says about his wife and her, or just any soldier, is we deserve respect before battle and honor after. And I liked that line.
Yeah, absolutely. It works good with Perrin too, because he's gotta learn to honor Layla instead of mourning her and wishing what could have been. Perrin heads over to the girls being Matt's sisters. That's when he shows them the picture of Matt, and they immediately start goofing and dunking on Matt, calling him the bladder blower and the sheep tutor, and yeah, just more evidence that these girls are going to be fun to have around.
And Fael's just fighting back rage, you don't disrespect the horn blower like that. I'll punch these two girls right now.
That's right. Yeah, Perrin was down with the goofing, but yeah, Fael was not quite.
She's like, they can't hear that I have knives in my sleeves because they wouldn't be dogging him if I did, if they did.
Let's see. Alana has blocked all the she says she's destroyed all the bridges. So that sounds great for this situation, but for the future, they got a lot of work to do. She's blocked all the passages, so the only way in and out of the two rivers is the mountain pass.
Well, good thing that they have an Ogier here. They're very good at building. Like, he'll be able to help in, the coming months.
Yeah, after he walks out of the gates there, I'm sure he'll be ready to join in and help out. Sure. So the only way in and out is their mountain pass. And of course, there is the gate, which in a couple minutes, we're going to talk about Loyal. He's going to go protect that gate. So we got two fortifications. We got the mountain pass there, and then they also have the gate to their village. So they really have two gates that the Trollocs have to get through. We got the Tinkers, the Tuatha, they're hanging out too, and Perrin gives them a job. He's like, if shit goes down, take our kids in this little secret passageway we built and, head out to the woods, get shelter. And he makes the joke that no one can run faster than a Tuatha, and Bane and Chiad are clearing their throats.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever discussed that, James. James and I are both fans of another podcast called Grift Horse. And there's two hosts that, have an amicable relationship, except for one of them might say things that pisses the other one off. And that's happening when she starts clearing her throat. And that's the cue that Megan is getting annoyed at something Howard says. And it's usually about 5 or 6 throat clears per episode, I would say.
Yeah, I would also say both of them make each other mad in episodes.
Right, except for Megan clears the throat, whereas Howard will pounce and go into a diatribe. So that's their difference. But it's always funny when I hear a Megan throat clear, and I know it's going to come next. Okay, yeah, Loyal is now on a mission to go close the Waygate. He tells Perrin, that's my job, I'm going to do this. Perrin says, I order you to, when you finish doing that, to go get healing at the Steadon. Go do that thing. He's like, okay. We get another, don't call me that. That's going to be his catchphrase, I guess, forever. Don't call me Lord Perrin. So yeah, Bane and Chiad are going off with Loyal to go protect that gate.
Or he'll eventually wise up to the Lord Perrin thing, and then he starts ruling the two rivers with an iron fist, and those iron fists he forged within the cauldron of the blacksmithy.
That's right. He's going to go over and, let's see, he checks the town folk and the fortifications, and it has the Perrin seal of approval. He's like, yes, we think he's getting ready to give a big rousing speech. He breaks into song. He sings that same song from back episode 1. Do you remember when they were on the horses and the old Matt and Rand and Egwene started singing the song, James?
I remember them singing a song. I don't remember it being this song.
It was this song. This is the Two Rivers theme song. This is like them singing God Save America or whatever.
Of the Wheel of Time songs, this one's the Iron Maiden of them.
I wasn't impressed too much. This song seems a little too downtrodden. This is not a good battle song in my opinion. I would think like shouting like a Judas Priest or an Iron Maiden song would be more effective for the battle they're getting ready to do.
Or Like It Loud or Lick It Up, whichever Kiss song that I'm thinking of. Going to battle with that, the enemy is going to be like, that's catchy as hell. And while they're tapping their feet, you got a bunch of archers just laying lead into them.
Yeah, that happens here. Yeah, they sing the little song. They get one verse in, one chorus in, and then the Trollocs, instead of singing, they just start yelling, which I think is what Perrin should have done too. But so now they're yelling at each other, singing at each other. The battle begins with a bunch of knock, draw, loose. And if you were a Game of Thrones watcher, you have PTSD now because that's all they ever said in Game of Thrones is knock, draw, loose. You get a lot of that. So while they're fighting, we see Loyal and his crew. They arrive at the Waygates. And the Dark Friends, sure enough, waiting for some reinforcements. And Bane and Chiad laugh at them and say that even the Shadow Spawn are weak. But yeah, right about now, it's fighting time. Everybody's going to start fighting. Alana and her channelers do the Ice Storm thing, which I think is a great move. And of course, it makes me think just keep doing that and you'll win. It's a winning move. They only do it once, though, and they get the Trollocs to retreat, which they say, it's a tactical retreat. So there must be like some human help with these Trollocs. I don't know how they demise that from the fact that the Trollocs ran away.
So my guess is Trollocs don't run away. They are like rabid beasts. They will just keep going until either there's no one else to kill. Actually, once they kill all those people, they're on to the next ones. They're like a spree killer opposed to like methodical BTK who is like, I will stake my victim out. I will learn their regimen, their routine, their schedule, and then I will act accordingly. They're like, no, you want to know what? Something really bad happened in my life. I snapped and I'm just going to keep going until I'm dead or there's no one left.
I mean, that is correct. You're right. I guess the only counter that I have is that they kept saying that they're doing a tactical retreat. So, like, I would think they would be like, oh, they're retreating. The Trollocs never retreat. But they're saying they're doing a tactical retreat. So I think maybe Trollocs do retreat, but they're doing it in such a way that it seems more organized. Maybe,
but
I'm grasping here.
Everyone who I think doesn't fully know Trollocs are like, well, this looks like a tactical retreat. So they're not, they're like, well, yeah, this is what an army would do because there's also like people with that army. But then the people who know Trollocs are like, well, they don't do that. What's going on? This doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm buying it. You've talked me into it once again. You do that like once per podcast where I try to like stand on a point and then you explain it to me and then I give in. So yeah, that was your time this time around.
It's the only podcast I ever do that on. This
I'm honored.
One. And then my biggest issue with the two rivers and their movement is they should have had two scouts always being around the channelers to be like, all right, just in case something goes down, because what if there is just a rogue Trolloc hanging around? You could quickly be like, wait, hey guys, I hear something. There's maybe 300 people down there who are going to be able to hold this back while we avert our attention over here to kill one Trolloc, so then we can go back to killing more.
Absolutely. I thought the same thing towards like the end part of this episode where I saw dudes standing on the roofs of the houses with arrows. And I was like, that's what they should be doing this whole time. Yeah. Is like being up high. And like there's these two like ridges. And I'm like, they could have easily sent 5 dudes on each ridge to like you said, be scouts. And they have their Two Rivers longbows, which we haven't mentioned that yet. But the Two Rivers have like the strongest longbows. It's kind of like the thing like everybody in this Randland world talks about how strong and great Two Rivers longbows are. They're like the pinnacle of longbows. So we have these guys that naturally have them, naturally build them, and can naturally use them. So that was my thinking this whole time, is like to have these guys on the roofs and to have them up in the ridges fighting down. But I wasn't asked my opinion, so I didn't get to give it. Alana is shot by another arrow. We see her in the background with the girls, and this giant arrow comes basically out of nowhere. So I'm going to take a quick pause. Who do you think shot that arrow, James? Some big old Trolloc, maybe?
Yeah, it looked too big or it is like a mechanism that shoots it. Like a big crossbow that is on wheels. I don't know what you call those.
Yeah, way bigger than normal. Probably bigger than a Two Rivers longbow.
Yeah, guys, think of it this way. Someone gets stabbed through the body with a sword. Okay, think of Sephiroth doing that in Final Fantasy VII. That's sort of the equivalent of a normal bow and arrow compared to this huge-ass arrow coming from we don't know where.
Right, and this is the only one of its kind. Well, we see two of them. One takes out Alana, one takes out Daisy Conger. Alana lives, Daisy Conger dies. I think that's a little unfair on Daisy's part there, but that's just the way it happens when you're lower down on the call sheet, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, those big arrows like raised a lot of questions for me and from the community, like who shot these arrows. I have suspicions. Maybe we'll talk about them in the last episode, because we'll maybe talk more spoilers if James chooses to know any spoilers about the story going ahead. But yeah, Maxim gives a rousing speech here. This speech that Maxim gives to the guys, this is like they're like, we're never going to give up because we're too dumb and we're too stubborn to give up. A lot of people have been cutting this speech up and using this as like, this is why we should save Wheel of Time, because, you know, we're too dumb and we're too stubborn and we want to keep watching this show regardless of what anybody thinks.
Oh, yeah, all the book cloaks are saying, yeah, we are really dumb for liking this. This is just a good show. I don't maybe it's not your vision of what this book was, but there's very rarely that you're gonna get what whoa, this is one for one. But I watched the Spawn TV show recently, the cartoon, and people are like, this is the best from page to TV ever, like page to screen. And I'm like, no, it's not. The show sucks. The fucking comic rules. And then sucks, I mean, like the pacing, it's so slow and just the same thing happens over and over again. Whereas the comic, it's like, nope, we're going to chug along. And there's dialogue within the comic book. There's none of that in the show. It's just like eerie darkness. And they're like, whoa, this is so cool. Get out of here. So like what I'm saying is adaptations are always not going to be exactly what you want. But if you think of it as a parallel universe or whatever, just like this is its own thing inspired by this thing.
Yeah, that's the way I've always seen it too. I'll take this opportunity to say that those book cloaks are being gleefully obnoxious right now. They're like cheering the fact on that the show has been canceled. And it's really caused me a little bit of personal strife, because this has happened to me before, where I find a community within the internet that I feel like I'm a part of, that I feel like I identify with these people and these are my people. And then something like this happens where the show gets canceled. And then I notice that everybody who I thought was like me are a bunch of assholes. And they're just like pissing on the grave of this show and cheering on the fact that it was canceled. And that really bothers me. I'm talking about the Wetlander humor subreddit, which I've been a champion of ever since I've been reading the books. I've always gravitated towards that subreddit, and I'm not liking it at all right now. It's really sad to see these people like just cheering this on.
This is what I will liken it to. Hey, book cloaks, you are exactly like 1 Million Moms. Because 1 Million Moms, if you don't know, no one go to their website, whatever. Like they suck. They're a conservative group trying to get, especially like children's TV shows that have any bit of like queerness or any diversity really in them, canceled. And when a show that's like 8 seasons in gets canceled and like comes to its logical conclusion point that they were like, this needs to be canceled, they'll be like, see, we got it canceled. And it's like, no, you didn't. It came to its like Star versus the Forces of Evil. They just hated that show because Marco, I'm guessing your daughter watched it.
Yeah, sure.
When Marco was in the Princess Academy, no one was like, oh, that's a dude. They just were like, yeah, he's a princess. Like, that's what he is.
Right.
And
acceptance. Yeah.
That show came to its logical conclusion point. Like, it went how far it needed to go and then got done. It was a 3-act play pretty much. But they were like, we got it canceled. And it's like, no, you didn't. Nothing you say matters. And Sean Clements from Hollywood Handbook talked about 1 Million Moms. This is how I found out about them on an old episode of Hollywood Handbook, or maybe it was something else. But he was talking about, it was either the Napoleon Dynamite show or the other cartoon that he worked on for Fox. I forget what it was. And he's like, yeah, 1 Million Moms, talking about like how they were always trying to get them canceled. And he joked pretty much saying like, it wasn't you guys that got it canceled. It was just the show not being good or like no one watching it. And then he's like, and 1 Million Moms is more like, I don't know, 75 moms. It's not a big thing.
Right. Yeah, I do love the exaggeration and how like, yeah, there's 75 of us plus all our bots. So there's 1 million of us out here.
So that's what these book cloaks are like.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I do think the fact that there's such a vocal community of people against the show didn't really help the decision of whether to keep it or let it go. So I kind of do put a little bit of blame on them, and maybe
no, because just because you're vocal, they'd be like, well, if there's 40,000 people always on Twitter talking shit about it, That's one thing. Now, if the viewership was less than 30, 40,000, then it's like, okay, well, the hate is outweighing the enjoying. It's the same as the Power Rangers community. There's so many motherfuckers in that community who just are so vocally hating on any of the new stuff that was happening when Nickelodeon was still airing stuff. But the creators were like, yeah, we're aware of these people, but we really don't take anything to heart from them because no matter what we do, it will not be Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in 1993, which is what they grew up liking. So there's nothing we can do to get these people on board. Also, they are 43 years old. Why would we cater to them? We need to cater to the children who are currently buying these toys. Yeah, these people will buy the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Lightning Collection stuff. And hey, real quick, that's what I was going to say, how Wheel of Time furthers on. It becomes a cartoon commercial. Their goal is to sell toys going on from season 4 and whatnot. So all of a sudden you see like Rand pull out his sword and he's like, I've got an upgrade to my sword. I put on these runes and it makes me more magical. And then they're like, whoa, he can fight the darkness within him through these runes in his sword. And then you buy the sword in real life.
You've touched on something here. There was no Wheel of Time deals with like clothing or toys or any of that stuff, that's where Game of Thrones really excelled. Like from season 1, you were seeing their merchandise all over the place. Yeah. And it's nowhere to be found for Wheel of Time. So, and yeah, Sweet Child of Time has officially not given the book cloaks any credit for canceling the show. You heard James's words just now. You get 0 credit for this. So,
dude, they could sell a matte action figure and you have to buy it twice. You have to buy it twice, okay, guys?
You buy like the matte upgrade face. That's you got to be the upgrade package. All right, the battle is moving on to the gates. They don't have the Aes Sedai to fight for them here. The girls are trying to heal Alana at this point, but they cannot. I think they're a little bit like Nynaeve in that sense where they can't always channel unless they're feeling really emotional, perhaps.
Yes and no. I think with them, they are emotional. They are in a panic, so I think they can't focus. When they were able to just calm down and focus, I think that's their issue, opposed to Nynaeve is 100% emotion driven. They are, we need to be calm, we need to be quiet, and in the midst of battle, you can't do that. However, when they see What's-His-Nuts walk in, man, they kill that dude so quickly. They're like, oh, he killed our mom. You're dying the same way, fucker. I loved it. Oh my God, it was so cool.
That's why I love these girls, man. I want to see more of them, but we're not at that point yet. Of course, we're always bringing up stuff too early. This is when the White Cloaks are entering in. And so Perrin is like, yay, the White Cloaks are here. And of course, they brought in our boy Padden Fane and his dark friends with him. And of course, they bring in the Trollocs. So it's like a little Trojan horse situation. That's how they get into the gates there. Pretty clever, in my opinion. So the battle continues inside the gates. And this is when we see the women of the Two Rivers roll up their sleeves. And they got a few chapters in the book, too. And I'm glad they got honored in the show here, like showing how the women take up arms just as well as the men. And this is where the Tuatha do their job. They take all the kids, run to the hills, get them out of here. There's one little kid I had to like shout out. I didn't notice him until just now when I was watching the episode recently. There's a little kid. He's a little black kid. He's about the same complexion as Perrin and Aram. And he's got the same hair as like Perrin and Aram too. And he's about 3 years old. And he keeps like smiling and having a great time and like looking at the camera. And like I couldn't help but notice him this third time around. Like 3 times he's like grinning ear to ear, like having a ball. Aram's not, though. Aram is trying to protect this baby, and he has to grab a sword, just like those guys in the episode 4. He was forced to kill this Trolloc, and Grandma saw it and was like, oh, I don't like you anymore.
He's no longer Aiel.
Yeah, I don't see my little boy Aram, and when I see your face, stranger, who are you? But yeah, that's a bummer to me that Isla still, that Isla didn't see the logic in that situation, that, he had the opportunity to save himself and this baby. But Isla, her hold to the leaf is steadfast, I suppose. Okay, now we're going to talk about Loyal, I suppose. He's there to hold back the reinforcements. Bane and Chiad are very happy to continue fighting. They're gleeful, bloody warriors. They love all this.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, Loyal can't bang down the walls with his hammer. So instead, he bangs down the floor, which is holding up the walls. But that, for whatever reason, allows him to take down this gate and have his big moment. He looks really cool when he's screaming at the guys. But beyond that, I don't like anything else because we know there's no way he could have survived this. The Ways has like an endless, he's going to be falling endlessly. His corpse is going to continue falling forever through like the depth of the universe because that's where it leads, just forever. So those rocks are going to fall forever. He's going to fall forever. Ugh. And I don't know how we'll ever get him back. This was not his fate in the books. I'll have to say that right now. So this is a really weird choice, in my opinion. I straight up don't like it. And they give him some honor. The only thing I do like about it is that we now know the show is canceled. And so they gave this character a real proper send-off. And he got to speak and he got to, we got to see his whole story arc. That's the only thing I can like about this.
He shows up outside of the mystery shack in Gravity Falls soon.
Oh, man.
Because there's that hole that goes forever.
The Wheel of Time Gravity Falls crossover we all been dying for, especially Loyal. He'd be great as a cartoon character, right?
Uh-huh. Or same thing in Jellystone, that show. He just shows up there and he's like, what's going on?
How would he show up in Jellystone? Is there something like that there too?
Yeah, there's that like same kind of like hole that goes forever and then people start like shoving things down it and then it creates a rift within the dimensions, and that's when older newer Hanna-Barbera characters like Dexter and Dee Dee and all of them start showing up.
Because of Jellystone, because of this thing in Jellystone.
Yeah, because of this hole that, like, it's a hole that no one should touch, but I believe people just start throwing trash and whatnot down there.
I got to look up the hole in Jellystone now, and I got to look up this AI company that's run by actual humans. I'm going to be Googling like crazy when we got the call here, James.
Good.
All right. Fail inspires Perrin. He grabs his battle hammer finally. We got Fail behind him. We're all a little nervous about Perrin fighting there by the blacksmith forge. Yeah. We're all a little nervous something's going to happen, but luckily it's all good. He gives Fail like the instruction, like, stay behind me so you can kill all the ones that I miss. So they're a team together. And yeah, I'm liking it. There's a bunch of fighting from this point on. I just wrote fight. My TV can't handle the frame rate. I have an older TV and it kept freezing up because of all this action and stuff that was happening on my screen. Perrin and Dane Bornhald side by side. Battle buddies once again. You like this, James?
Yeah, why not?
I think that if anybody can get Dane on the right path again and get off the sauce, maybe get back to being a good White Cloak, I think it's Perrin. And hopefully by the end of their days, they'll make up and they'll be friends. That's what I see happening.
Fingers crossed that happens in the next episode or it's not happening at all.
That's right. Next up, we got our favorite scene is when the girls see Child Valda walk up. The girls see him, they immediately can channel, burn his ass up, and Alana's laughing. This is great fun. She loves it. Were you laughing along, James?
Oh, yeah, because I think she's laughing because she's like, fuck yeah, that dude finally got what he deserved. And she's like, there is hope for me. They can channel. Maybe they can heal me while they're in like this cathartic state of like, yeah, we killed the dude who killed our mom.
That's exactly what happens, actually. So, yeah, it was a selfish laugh. She's like, at last, I can get healed. Because that is what it happens off screen, but that is exactly what happens. Like, they heal her from that giant arrow through her. They can't heal Daisy Conger, but they can heal Alana because she's cooler, I guess. I'm still mad about Daisy Conger. Can you tell, James? I don't like the fact that they can just kill her off like that.
I can't tell.
Okay, all right. It's time for a real claustrophobic battle now. Everything gets really tight in the frame. We have this big cluster of people all claustrophobic up together. Perrin has all this room in the world, though. He's got like at arm's length, he's got all this room, no problem, fighting his way over to Paddon Fane. Paddon Fane is like egging him on with those big old teeth of his and grinning like, yeah, come get me. And then when Perrin does come get him, he doesn't like that. But Perrin doesn't kill. This is when the episode starts losing me.
Yes, but hold on real quick. He starts realizing Paddon Fane like, oh, wait, no, we might be losing this. I need to turn and run away because Perrin's coming for me. He starts running away, and getting a smithing hammer pelted at you is reason that you should be like, I got to rethink what led me here, okay? Because, like, someone being able to pelt that from maybe 15 feet away from you and hit you in the back, like, dead on, yeah, you did something wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He did just kind of brush that one off like it didn't even happen. But yeah, they have a little conversation here. They talk for a real long time, a very long time, a long conversation, James. And eventually Loyal's not with us anymore. Perrin is like, yeah, if you just call your Trollocs off, then I'll let you go. Okay. And that's what happens. I'm not satisfied with the way this battle ended, James. But he just basically talked him out of continuing fighting, and they wandered off, leaving absolutely no corpses behind.
But you've already been saying Perrin has been doing everything diplomatically. He is trying to reduce the amount of bloodshed.
Yes.
And that's what happens. Like, this was the logical conclusion point to this episode. Yeah, it sucks because you always think, well, that dude's just going to come back and kill everyone. But how angry Perrin is like, you don't want to die? Okay, if you break your end of the bargain, I'm going to break my end of the bargain too, and I will kill you as strongly as I can.
Okay. I mean, once again, you're right, because that's what he says at the end here. At the end of the episode, not here, but when we get to the end of the episode, which will be in like 10 minutes, he says something along the lines of, when will the violence only stops when somebody has the strength to say stop. Mm-hmm. And so he has the strength to stop the violence. I guess that's what's happening here, but it's just really unsatisfactory to me. First off, that conversation took as long as it did. Second off, that they had as much space around them while everybody else was over there, like all tight up and claustrophobic. They had like all this room around them. I just didn't like it logistically, James. It just really made me hold my nose.
But that's because it's the commander of the Trolloc army is all of a sudden being like, oh, I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want to die. Everyone else can die. This is a cowardice man.
Yes.
So Perrin is running to this coward to take him out. That's why they are far removed from the battle. Everyone else is focused in the square trying to take the town or trying to save the town.
Okay.
So I'm fine with that. And just, it's taking so long because Paddon Fane thinks he has the upper hand. He knows there's like 1,000 Trollocs about to come through the ways. Until we see this bright light of magical explosion happen.
Right.
Both of them are like, oh, what could that be in the direction of the ways? There's only one thing. Oh,
right.
The gate has been null and void. And that's when Paddon Fane's like, oh, fuck, I'm going to die. And then if he dies, the only thing that's going to happen are the Trollocs are going to be rudderless. They are just going to keep attacking until either they die or they have killed everyone, like we were talking about before. So I think him saying like, hey, Paddon Fane, you need to get out of here, or, it's just going to it's going to suck for everyone.
I'm mad at you now, James. You saw this logic. It works. Like, that really worked. It's like... Damn it. All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The fact that they were away from everybody else, he ran, and that's the only way he could get the Trollocs. Instead of actually killing them, the easy way is to have them retreat. Yeah, that does make total sense. So yeah, Goldeneyes, I guess you did a good thing here. James talked me into it. All right. I'm sad now. I can't be mad at this episode anymore. Bane and Shiad didn't die. It kind of looked like they were going to die, but they came back.
I'm so excited about. But that's because, the Trollocs started running away.
Yes.
So if the Trollocs hadn't run away, our two faves would have died.
That's right. So they're still with us. And that's something that that Fail points out. She's like, if everybody wanted the greatest, warriors, they would choose Bane and Chiad. If they wanted the greatest leader, they would choose Alana. But instead, we want you. And so I kind of like that she addressed the fact that, like, yeah, there's some better choices out there as leaders, but these town people like you in particular because you're one of them. So, I like the fact that they addressed that fact. So yeah, Alana was healed by the girls. The battle is over because, Loyal did his job. James explained how that worked out. And Paddon Fane took his guys and took off. And it looks like there was 0 casualties because everything looks good. Just a few buildings are like knocked over a little bit.
I mean, we for sure saw casualties.
I mean, I saw them happen, but when the battle was over, there was none of them laying on the ground. So I guess they did okay, this is what happens. They have like their caretakers that are like going to take care of like burying the bodies. And they're working really hard in the background. Like as the battle is happening, they're like scooping up the corpses and running them off to the woods and like burying them real quick. Like in that apple orchard where Perrin was at. So that's why we don't see any corpses.
Or the first weave that these 2 girls wove was, hey, we're digging graves.
Or like the corpse cleanup weave.
Yeah.
That's what you call it. All right. Oh, and I got a shout out before we get to the end here. Egwene's mom. She's a pretty badass warrior. The mayor of the town, the runner of the Wine Spring Inn, and also killer of Trollocs. We see her kill at least 2 Trollocs in this episode. Who else is left? Aram. Aram has a new direction in life now. Like Egwene's mom, speaking of her, she sees Aram looking all bummed out. Like she knows that he's been outed as like a killer now, so he can't be Tuathan anymore. She's like, hey, we need a blacksmith. I mean, why don't you hang around here and mend some pots and pans? So now they got those 2 brothers that are blacksmiths. They're already, they pretty much are on the same level with Perrin. Now they got Aram, who can be like an apprentice to these 2 guys. So instead, this town used to have 1 blacksmith, Perrin. Then he left town. They had 0 blacksmiths. Now they have 3. The town has this huge purpose now, and they can probably expand in the future. So it's kind of cool that like Aram has a purpose now and he has a place to stay, and we can probably check in with him in future seasons of Wheel of Time and see how he's doing as a blacksmith.
Oh, I can't wait.
And then Perrin, he's our last dude here. He decides to honor his promise, much to everyone's surprise. He's like, yeah, I told these White Cloak guys that I turned myself in, so I'm going to do this. Fail's like, no, you can't do that. He's like, it's my choice, Fail. You respect my choice. And she's like, my choice is to fight for you. And he's like, but my choice is for you not to fight for me because my choice is my choice. And so like they're, eventually she gives in and she's like, I'm going to let Perrin go. So Perrin rolls off with the White Cloaks. He's got the shackles on his hands, but we know that he and Dane Bornhald have a little bit of a love-hate relationship, let's say. He hates Perrin because he killed his dad, but he thinks Perrin's a pretty cool dude. So we'll see how that pans out in the future. He leaves town with a chance of Lord Perrin, Lord Perrin. And that's the end of the episode, James.
Yeah, we did miss one thing, which was they went back because they had told Loyal, hey, write about us.
Oh, that's
because
right.
you are a chronicler of history. And they're like, hey, he knew he wasn't going to make it. He left his book here. And there's this very sweet passage about Perrin in there that ends with Perrin, my friend. Don't keep going into it or you'll start crying, James. But it would have been very funny because you see him open the book, Perrin, and he goes to the last page and there's a beat before it starts like narrating what is being written. It would have been funny if he's looking at it, there's a beat, then he closes it and goes, I can't read a lick of that, then just walks out.
Yes. I was raised in the Two Rivers. I can't read shit.
Well, no, not that he can't read shit. He's like, yeah, this is a language I don't know.
That too, yep. And yeah, of course, it's really weird that they have Loyal die here because the whole point of the book series, The Wheel of Time, is that they were written by Loyal.
Okay.
So he has to live through the ending of our whole story in order for that to be the case. So who is the writer of The Wheel of Time now? Maybe a new writer will rear his head. But yeah, that's the end of our episode here. We got one more episode to discuss, and we'll talk about the cancellation more then. But Before we wrap up, for my plug, I'll just say go to that savewot.com website and sign that petition and get some more names in there and just, let people know that you're into the Wheel of Time. You'd love to see it continue. How about you, James?
This is a joke I should have done. Hey, guys, go to savescot.com, meaning Save Sweet Child of Time. If there's no Wheel of Time, what are we going to do?
Well, we recap and discuss time-related TV shows and movies. So I guess we'll find something else that has something to do with time. We'll keep talking, James.
Yeah. Hey, guys, head over to patreon.com/MLM pod. That's MLMPOD. For $5 a month, you get exclusive content every single Friday. This is being recorded in advance, so last Friday will be an episode of not Sweet Child of Time, The Citizens of Townsville Z with, wait, who is this? MLM Pod co-host of The Height of Horror, which will be returning. Presley is on?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Where has she been?
A lot happened in her life, and then she was trying to raise like a 2-year-old. So she was like,
easy stuff.
No, it's not easy stuff, Steve.
I'm glad she's back, dude. Congrats. I'm glad to hear you and Presley podcasting once again.
Like This Movie's Gay, it'll be a monthly podcast. So I'm excited. We have not recorded. That is one of the 3 podcasts that I'm recording today. So
cool.
Be on the lookout for that. And listen to Death to Squids on the Marshland Media podcast feed. That's the other podcast I'm recording, which the episode from last week on time of release will be us discussing Tank Girl, baby.
Nice. Good one, dude. I haven't seen that in decades. I can't wait to see it again.
It rocks.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess that's Sweet Child of Time for us then. Check out James's other podcasts. I'm going to be doing that. You know I will. And until then, everybody find some water and shade and shoes. Bye.
Bye-bye.